A gute Woche to everybody, and thank you very, very much for coming. I want to study together with everybody here, my son Yisrael Meir and everybody here. I want to study two parts to the parsha with everybody here. There's a pasuk, it's the pasuk that can be thought about a lot in this week's Parashas Truma. It says, "B'tabois ha'arayin yiyu abadim." In the rings of the arayin should be the poles, lo yasuru mimenu. They should never be moved. The rings, the poles, b'tabois ha'arayin yiyu abadim, the poles of the arayin. I'm a Levi, and the job of us Leviim was to carry, one of the jobs is to carry the arayin, and the poles with which you carry the arayin should remain in the tabois, in the rings. Lo yasur mimenu, don't remove the poles from the arayin. This pasuk intrigues me, and whenever you're studying Torah, stop by the things that intrigue you. Stop and pause. I have watched for many years, in yeshiva we bring down many singers to yeshiva, many performers. And I want to tell you what separates the good singers, the amazing ones, from the good ones. Baruch Hashem, they're all talented and amazing. But I want to tell you what separates the greats. People come to yeshiva and perform, talent, beautiful. But every once in a while, a certain song resonates by the guys. You can feel it in the room. For whatever reason, it might be relevant to the time. If a certain song hits home and people are excited by it, stay on that song, don't move. And the great performers don't run away. If they see a song hit at a concert, they play it for longer and they go back to it later. And the performers, maybe they're nervous, and they're not as experienced, and they're not like attuned to the crowd. Like a song hits, and then a minute later they're on a different song. You look up, like keep going. Like we were excited. The Olam was dancing, Lebedik. It's a very big art in our private lives when you're praying, and you hit a certain thing in davening, and it resonates. Stay there. Different days for different reasons. Different things are on our mind. If something hits home, stay there. If I hear a song, guys in yeshiva are like, oh no. If I hear, we've been singing Hashem Malei Rachamim now for a year straight because the song resonated by us and I'm not running from it. Because it resonated and it hit home and we were excited by it. Learn to pause. When you learn Torah and we study Torah, different psukim will hit you and me. Learn to pause by a pasuk that hits you. Now, why does this pasuk hit me? It's rather a funny pasuk. The poles of the arayin is an Isser Daraisa. It's probably one of the least known of the Taryag mitzvahs. It's an Isser Daraisa to take the poles out of the arayin. Now, Kalish, why does that halacha? And there are a lot of mitzvahs. We don't have an arayin today. Somehow this intrigues me, and I want to tell you why. We have very little rules in yeshiva. We're not a rulesy place. There are very little rules in yeshiva. There's definitely rules. We have rules, but very little. We're not a very rulesy place. In my shir, a guy can come and schmooze and be geschmack, easygoing. I have a rule that I'm very tough on. And the rule is no coats by shir. I'm like fire. Connecticut could be a cold place, and the weather gets freezing. And I have a rule that's chak v'la yaver, you're not allowed to wear a coat and shear, but I'm tough on it. No way, I don't care. It could be a visiting dignitary, luminary, it doesn't matter who it is. There's no coats during shear. That's like chak v'la yaver. The reason I do that is I feel strongly that to learn Torah, you have to present yourself. I'd rather a guy come to shear and throw spitballs than he like disassociates. Just come, be you, bring you. I'd rather a guy more lebedik at shir than he's like trying to be. Come and bring you, be you, present yourself, and let's study Torah. Come, let's do it. Let's learn. Let's. So I just feel a code is like a guy hiding. Take your walls down. Let's study. Let's learn. Let's do it. So by me, no coats. As somebody whose only rule in shir is no coats, to think of the badim is the code of the Aron. A guy like me, the first thing I would say to the Aron is take off your poles. Machsa Chemish, we had the poles because we traveled in the 42 years. We had 42 masais. In the 40 years in the Midbar, we had 42 travels. And when we traveled, we certainly had to pick up the Aron. But we had years at a time when we just stayed in one place. Sometimes 2-3 years we were in one spot. So when the Aron stops, take off the poles and let's get comfortable. It intrigues me because I'd be the first guy to try to take off the poles, and it's Asa Daraisa. B'taboy sa'aron yiyu abadim, a pasuk in this week's parsha. In the rings of the Aron shall remain the badim, lo yasurim menu. Asa Daraisa, to take out the poles. That's intriguing to me. It's just strange. Shouldn't we? And what's Hashem saying? Certainly we follow all the mitzvahs Hashem. Now, obviously, wouldn't touch those poles, despite an instinct to say to the Aron, make yourself at home. Take off your coat. Take off your. You're not traveling. You're here now. Let's go. But it leaves on the poles. And the simple question is what's being said here? I want to tell you a story. And then it's very, very relevant to our lives. My wife and I talk about this concept very, very often, and I want to tell you what happened to me. This Shabbos is an out Shabbos in yeshiva. On an in Shabbos in many, many years, we don't miss in Shabbos in yeshiva. And there was a particular Shabbos that I was flying to Los Angeles for Shabbos. There was something I was doing there, and I was flying to LA. I don't like leaving my family for Shabbos, the mishpachas together, and I don't like leaving the yeshiva Shabbos, and I was breaking those two cardinal rules, and I was on a plane headed to LA for Shabbos Kalish. And on the plane, I first was preparing shiurim. I was giving shiurim in Los Angeles. I was preparing the shiurim. After I finished preparing the shiurim, it was this week's Parashas Truma, and I opened up a sefer to learn Parashas Truma, and the first word I opened up, I'm on a plane leaving my family and leaving the yeshiva, and the first word the first pasuk, the first thing I study is the following story. It's a Pella. Following story. Reb Yerucham Levovitz, the great mashgiach of the Mir, had it sad to retire from being mashgiach of the Mir. He was going to hang up the cleats. That's it, retiring, and go learn Torah in Kelm. He was going to go spend the rest of his days to learn in Kelm. And he decided, before he took such a move, to do a Geirul Agra. There's a way of opening the Torah, and there's a way of checking what the Hashem will tell you. There are people today, my Rabbi has done the Geirul Hagra, my father-in-law has done the Geirul Hagra. There are people that know how to do the Geirul Hagra, and you ask the Torah questions and you can get answers. So Rabbi Yerucham decides to do a Geirul Hagra to find out if he should retire from the Mir Yeshiva and become the rest of his life sit and learn in Kollel and Kelm. He does the Geirul Hagra. This is what I'm reading on the plane, leaving my family and the yeshiva. And he reads, I read, the first thing I read after I prepared the shiurim when I wanted to learn myself. And he says that Rabbi Yerucham does the Geirul Hagra, and the pasuk that came out is this pasuk. B'taboy sa'aron yiyu abadim. The poles of the Aron should remain in the sockets, thank you. In the sockets, the poles of the Aron should remain in this. Lo yasurim menu, an iser daraisa, to remove the poles. And Rabbi Yerucham took that pasuk as a message from Hashem. When you're carrying something, don't put it down. This is your job. This is what you're carrying. The poles remain in the Aron. Don't put it down. You have achrayus. You have responsibility. You're carrying something. Don't put it down. And Rabbi Yerucham saw this pasuk and spent the rest of his life as the mashgiach in the Mir Yeshiva. He saw as a message from Hashem, you're carrying something, don't put it down. Somebody I love very, very dearly, who's been Torah, a wonderful, very inspiring person, he invested somewhere and lost a lot of money. And after consoling him and feeling his pain, I asked him what his takeaway from his experience was. And he told me his takeaway is stay in your lane. He feels like he went to a place he had no business going. And he said his takeaway is stay in your lane. There's a world full of good things to do, and we came on a Shabbos, a Project Inspire, which is really being ma'ir us all, arousing and encouraging us to be idealists. We're all B'nai Avram, we come from Avram Avinu, Sarei Imenu, and we're pushed, anybody who studies Torah is an idealist, and wants to accomplish and be mekarev and lift up, and bring people closer to Hashem. But of course, I want to say that a tremendous, tremendous thing all of us have to learn in the sugya of idealism is to carry that which we're responsible for. B'taboy sa'ara yiyu abadim. There are often so many attractive things to do, but it's not what you're meant to be carrying. And in our lives, we have to all think about, and it's not as opposed, this is not like as opposed, of course, reaching out, but reaching out to the person next to you, to the person nearest. I sometimes, once in a while, I'll hear people say lines as if like, I haven't seen my family in months, I'm so busy with my yeshiva. I always think, Nebuch, what a terrible thing. Why aren't you carrying your family? We have responsibilities, and we have precious things that we're supposed to carry. Of course, even in the reaching out, is the neighbor, is the brother, is the cousin, is the great uncle, are the people that are right around us, that are in our responsibilities. It will always feel tempting out there, and certainly there's reach out, of course, but carrying our responsibilities, b'taboy sa'ara yiyu abadim, lo yasur mimenu, you're carrying something, stay focused, carry what you're supposed to be carrying. This lesson of b'taboy sa'ara yiyu abadim, the Rabbi Yerucham saw you carrying the Mir Yeshiva. I saw this on the plane, leaving my family and the yeshiva, and I felt that Hashem was giving me a big hug with a little love tap. Daniel. I was like, Hashem, what do you want? I was on the way to Los Angeles. To ask the pilot to turn around, I'm not so selfish and arrogant. A whole plane's going to LA. I decided, right when I got to the airport, I called guys who had learned in yeshiva. I gathered them that night, literally, kemat straight from the airport. And we sat, I felt like, at least as a message, guys who had learned in yeshiva in LA, I gathered. There was a bacher who was around LA. I asked my host at the airport if I could have this, normally ein areach machnas areach. I asked him if it's possible I can have this bacher with me. I felt there was a message, you're carrying things, carry the things you're carrying. I think that number one message of this pasuk, b'taboy sa'aron, applies to all of us B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov idealists, to make sure that the things that we're achrei for, our own families, our own neighbors, our own community, there's a tendency to look far when there are things we're responsible right here. A friend right here who needs us. I think it's always an important lesson. B'taboy sa'ara yiyu abadim. The poles of the arein must always remain in their sockets. Lo yasur mimenu, carry what you're supposed to carry. I think it's instructive to many things that come our way. It's instructive and an important lesson to carry that which we're supposed to carry. I want to add something on b'taboy sa'ara yiyu abadim, a second pshat that I think also is being said here. What is it that the arein has poles? Take off the poles. A question is energy. In any shir you go to, there's no room for answers until you're literally bothered by the question. I'm going fast here. If this was in yeshiva, I wouldn't go so fast to answers. I'm like saying a second answer. These are not lectures. Second answer. Wow, nice, interesting. Hashem's talking to me and talking to you. Are you bothered by this? The Aron has poles in it. Take off the poles. Let's get comfortable. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's get comfortable. It's a Pella. Hashem wants the picture of the Aron is the poles remain on. There's a second point that I think questions are energy, questions are forces. And they bring us, when we say a second answer, it doesn't like me, no. And some say, if you want to say Hashem's Torah and the questions that it causes us to wonder drive us places. And Hashem intends that journey that the question brings. So when you read a pasuk like that, you just, Now, if the answer so satisfies you that you're not bothered anymore, there's no such thing as a second answer. It's only if the question, but I'm still bothered. So we heard a first point that the poles stay in the Aron as a lesson. If you're carrying something, don't stop carrying it. But it needs more. It needs more. It needs more because why is the lesson taught here? That could be taught by other Kalim. That's a general lesson, but that could be taught by the bottom of the Shulchan. It could be taught in other places. Why did Hashem teach me that here? That lesson is true, what your responsibilities are, but that didn't need to be taught by the Aron. As such, it's a good answer and a truth. And Rabbi Yerucham changed his life. Rabbi Yerucham read this pasuk and didn't leave. The mir kept its mashkiach because of this pasuk. I was Zayich Baruch Hashem in Los Angeles. I had a gathering, and a bacher who was a shtickle lost. We spent Shabbos together, and he was found because of this pasuk. So the pasuk talks to us. The poles remain in the Aron. Don't remove it. What you're carrying, keep carrying. Don't let go. So it's certainly an important lesson, but we need another teretz. We need another teretz because why the Aron? So I want to share something else, but I'm not saying a vert. This is not a vert. You might say Shabbos. We listened all Shabbos. There's not a nice vert. A vert's like, we could study Torah to hear a vert, or we could hear what the Torah is saying. I want to try to tap into what Hashem's saying to us. And he said that the Aron keeps its poles. The Aron is Torah. In the Aron houses a Sefer Torah. It's Machlokes Tanaim. In the Aron, next to the Aron, it houses the Luchais. The Aron is Torah and represents Torah. And Torah has poles. Torah has poles. The Aron, that item that represents Torah, there are poles to it. And I want to say that the exact story that happened to Rabbi Yerucham. Rabbi Yerucham Levavitz has a shayla, should he leave the mir or not? And he reads a pasuk and he stays the rest of his career in the mir. Rabbi Yerucham had it sad to retire from the mir and go to learn in Koil and Kelm. And he saw the pasuk, B'taboy sa'aron yu abadim la'yasur mimenu, and he heard a message from Hashem, you're carrying something, don't put it down. People get tempted and caught. Maybe go here, maybe do that. You're carrying something. Focus and stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. It's a funny word to me, stay in your lane. I have a lot of problems with lane integrity. When there are no vehicles around, I'm not so like makbid to stay in my lane. I'll move over. And my car has this feature I don't know how to turn off, that it buzzes when you're not in your lane. So I always ask if my kids are with me or a bacher, could you turn off? I'm not so good with lane integrity. But in life, we have to learn lane integrity. Stay in your lane. You're focused on something, stay in your lane. I'm a careful driver. You have to be a careful driver. It's only when there are no cars around late at night, I find it safer a little bit in the middle. You don't have to be to the side. Maybe I worry about deers. I'm on the merit a lot. So fine. So I'm not so mocked on lane integrity there. But in life, you got to be careful with lane integrity. Stay in your lane. You're carrying something, keep carrying it. But tabois are you about them? Isn't that remarkable? Rabbi Yerucham had a suffix in his life, and he's reading the Torah. And I think there's a message, the poles on the Aron, is the Torah is meant to come with us through our life, and I want to explain that. On a very simplistic level, in all the journeys of our life, we keep the Torah. But I want to say deeper, bring the questions of your life to the Torah. Learn the Torah with the questions that you have. I got a call before Hanukkah, and a guy tells me, not somebody I know so well, I want to know him better. This person calls me and says, I'm not lighting the menorah this year. It's like, what? It's a funny phone. I'm not lighting the menorah. What's happening? Described to me tremendous sorrow. Being an older single, not feeling he has his own bias, and he described tremendous sorrow. He said, I'm not lighting the menorah. So I very much, such a tsar of a person, a mitzvah on the bias, nerish ubeisai, described my lighting at home. I feel I should be out of my house. My lighting in yeshiva, I'm an older bacher, I don't feel at home in the yeshiva he was in. Nerish ubeisai brought out emotion. I didn't tell him this, but I want to tell you this, and I want to tell me this. He should light the menorah. It's not like forget your stuff and do the mitzvah. Hashem is talking to you. Light the menorah with your tzar. Nerishu Beisai, where's my bias? What's my bias? The mitzvah itself, another guy, nothing to do with this fellow. This was a guy I'm very, very close to. Knocks on my door the last night of Hanukkah, like a tough knock, late at night. He drove on over to my house, b'chiyos. He lit the last candle, and he was bawling about his bias, where his bias. That wasn't a side point to Ner Chanukah. The mitzvah spoke to him. Nerishu Beisai, light your house. Shine out to the world. And he started asking about his bias, about shining. He came, he bawled on my couch. He said, he was white when I answered, I have to sit down. He made a beeline right to the kids' playroom, sat on the couch, and started crying. That wasn't a side point. He's present. The Rav spoke, Rav Zakatinsky spoke by Shalosh Shudas about a lebedek Torah, but a Torah that has a niggin with it. That's a Torah with a tune. You don't just like forget yourself and robotically light the menorah. He brought his journey to the Torah. Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, the very other story, had a safek, and he read a pasuk that spoke to his life. I want to tell you a story that happened to me. I want to tell you a story, and always learn Torah. Read the parsha with who you are. Even that this pasuk resonates, I'm a guy who thinks you should take off your coat and share. And my only rule is you can do what you want and share. Smoke a pipe in my face, just don't wear a coat. So this pasuk is troubling for me. Bring your issues to the Torah and let something resonate. Bring yourself, bring your experiences to Torah. The Torah has poles, and it means that it comes with you on your journey. And the picture of the Arayin is there poles in it. Means it's ever relevant, ever talking to your story. It's not relegated to one place in your life. It doesn't stay there. The Arayin has poles. It comes with, and it goes with wherever you are. It talks to you. I want to tell you a cool story that happened to me. When your Arayin has poles, you'll see your learning becomes not vertim. You don't have a vert. You have like a story. All the divrei Torah, Hashem's talking to you and guiding. Listen to this story. Listen to this interesting story. In yeshiva, so I'll give a mashal that's happening this minute. 60 guys applied to one yeshiva, and the yeshiva told me we have 20 spots. We could take 20 out of 60. I think we could push in. They're amazing people. 10 more we'll probably be able to push in. Don't say anything. Maybe we'll even push 20 more. So I said we'll get it to 30 or 40. But it's out of 60 and very complicated. Very emotional, complicated. Who gets to go? Who not? How do you even decide? Very, very, very serious people's lives. A bacher wants to go learn, so he just wants to go to Steig. Very complicated shilas. Now let's say a guy, one of the 60, says, Kalish, should I go to that yeshiva? But he has another option. Now for him, it would be better to go to that yeshiva that 60 guys wants to go. But for the overall system, it's better if he goes elsewhere. He can go elsewhere. And for him, he'll do just fine going elsewhere. So maybe advise him to go elsewhere, and it's a good eitzah. It's a good eitzah for the klal. It's better for more people if he goes elsewhere. But on the other hand, for him, it might be even a drip better to go to that yeshiva 61 want to go to. What do you do? And I've grappled with this shaila. Do you give an eights and say, listen, you go there, it's better for the system? It's a good shaila. A very good shaila. I noticed a Rashi I never noticed in my life. 2 years ago, I had this shaila, and I noticed the Rashi, a good shaila. Somebody asked advice. 60 guys want to go to the same yeshiva. You only have spots for 20, and maybe you'll get in 30. If you advise this one bacher to go elsewhere, it opens up a slot for somebody else. And he could go elsewhere, but it's better for him to go to that yeshiva. Is that called, now, the Chazal, there's an Isser Daraisa to give bad advice. You're not allowed to eat chazer, you're not allowed to give Isser Daraisa to give bad advice. Lifnei lo sitein michshal, don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind man, is an Isser Daraisa to give bad advice. Now, all of us have seen that Chazal, and Eitza she'eino higenis. Do you know Chazal don't say Eitza she'eino higenis, they add one word I never noticed in my life? It says, don't give an eight, it says, Lifnei lo sitein michshal, in front of a blind guy, don't put a stumbling block. Says Chazal, don't give an Eitza she'eino higenis loy to him. Why did it stick into him? Don't give bad advice. Eitza she'eino higenis. It says, loy, don't give bad advice to him. What do you have to say to him? Don't give bad advice. Lifnei lo sitein michshal. Somebody asks advice. Don't give an Eitza she'eino higenis, bad advice. It says bad advice for him. I mean, he's the one asking, that's what I mean. I never noticed the word loy. But if your Aron has poles, means you bring your life's worries to Torah. Learn presently. All of a sudden you notice Chazal. That's what Chazal are saying. It's not an Eitza she'eino higenis. It's not bad advice. It's good for it's good for everybody. And overall, it's a better advice. But your obligation, it's Asur Daraisa to say what's bad advice for him. I have seen heads of schools tell a bacher, good advice to go. They figure good advice is good for other people, for the rest of the yeshiva, but they give it as advice. Isser Daraisa, the head of the school, ate chazer. Isser Daraisa mamish. You're not allowed to give a guy bad advice for him. Doesn't matter, it's better for other people. That's called Eitza she'eino higenis loy. For him, it's bad advice. He should be told absolutely stay in the yeshiva, because better for him. The fact that it's better for others, you're mechoyev, the one who asks the advice, to give the best possible advice to this person. So when we learn Torah, the Aron always has poles as the pshat. Bring your worries to your learning Siddharm. Bring yourself, bring your person, bring your own quirks. By the way, you're the type a certain pasuk will be interesting to you. That's called your Aron has poles. It's coming on your journey. So a pasuk, and by the way, different years, different psukim will resonate by you because your Aron has poles. It's not relegated over there. There I learn, and then I disconnect, and I have my life. I bring along the Torah through my journeys into every aspect of my life. That's all part of the Aron having poles. That's the first pasuk I wanted to learn with the Chevra tonight. These two lessons, and if you're carrying something, don't put it down. Stay in your lane. Carry what you're supposed to carry. Don't neglect what you're supposed to carry for something fancy. There was a summer, my wife and I we live on a little mountain. And that Shabbos in the summer, there were 11 or 12 men going to be in shul. It's a small shul with 45, 50 families that we up to. We're a small little mountain. And it was the summer, a lot of families. There would be 11, 12 men in the shul. Somebody wanted me to do something, would have been literally 1,000, like a serious matz. It was very exciting for me. And I was I thought maybe there's such a big zach. But I thought to myself, this vert, that you're supposed to carry, this is your shul, this is your place. And b'tabois are in you abadim lo yasir men, who carry what you're supposed to carry. Carry what you're supposed to carry, but not begrudgingly. With chayos, I didn't stay and it was like a tough Shabbos. I didn't stay over this word, trust me. I stayed because you carry what you're supposed to carry. Don't put down what you're supposed to carry. This is what you're supposed to carry this. I speak over with my wife, we talk over, there are always many opportunities to do many things. And it's tempting, do this, do that, such good things. But if they entail putting down what you're supposed to carry, don't run. Carry what you're supposed to carry. Carry what you're supposed to carry. Very important lesson. Message number 1 for us all. The lesson number 2 is to bring the Torah through our life, into our life. Bring our life to Torah and the Torah to our life. Remember that the Aron has poles. It comes with. It talks to our lives. It guides us in the details of our life. Bring your life and the journey of our life to Torah. That's this pasuk, b'tabois aryu abadim. I want to share one more thing, and then really to thank everybody. Might say Shabbos after a Shabbos of Shiurim, a tiring Shabbos. People are coming to learn. Amazing. I really owe you. I always ask guys to pay up with music. If there was a bacher here who could sing, I'd have him sing you the most creative, nicest songs in the world. You deserve everything. This vart, maybe you'll like this, but maybe this will be a gift. This, I'll share you a gift that I want to share with everybody here. The Mishkan. The Mishkan, this week's parsha, the Mishkan. All these parashas, all of us study Torah, anybody who has to speak, the whole Sefer Bereshis, electric, magical. It's the story of our avos, the beginning of our nation, the people who founded our nation, magical. My Messiah from my Rabbi, Bereshis Parshas, Avram showed up to our yeshiva. My Rebbe brought him. Avram is my tata, and my Rebbe introduced. Avram Avinu sat with us. My Rebbe should have a refuah shlema, is somebody who brought Avram into our lives. Me and my friends always said about him, without knowing that, I don't remember hearing him say this, though who knows if it's in my brain somewhere, but we always said that he made the avos real to us. The avos were our fathers. We asked ourselves, what would they like? We try to emulate them from my Rebbe. I was so happy. My Rebbe wrote a book about his own father. And he thanked his father in the book that his father brought the avos into his life in a very real way. It was very neat to see his father was his Rebbe, and to hear him write about his father doing that for him was something cool that my friends and I always felt he did that for us. So Bereshis, magical. Shemais is the story of the banim of our ummah, the formation of our nation. Yitzias Mitzrayim, ever present in our life, culminating with the whole purpose. Tavdanas Elikim Al-Harazeh Kabbalah Satira Yisrael Mishpatim, the practical law that must emanate from receiving the Torah. Excellent Mishpatim. Then starts a whole bunch of parshiyos that are more difficult to connect to. The Mishkan. The Mishkan was a one-time structure not to be rebuilt. Very technical, different laws and details about the Mishkan, and starts a series of parshiyos that it's a little more challenging to connect, to understand. So we just took one pasuk in Truma, B'taboy sa'aran yu abadim le'surumenu. Every pasuk in the Torah is talking to me and talking to you. Ever relevant, ever practical. We have to study it, see what we can understand, what it's saying to us. But I want to study the Mishkan in general. So the Mishkan is the structure that's built to house that the Shechina, it's v'shachanti b'soichem. The Mishkan's called the Mishkan. Rashi says in Pekudei, in a couple of parshas, that the Mishkan is called the Mishkan. It says it twice in a pasuk, in Pekudei, and in Perek Lamed Ches, it says it twice in the pasuk Mishkan. And Rashi says that the Mishkan is a mashkan, is collateral. It's a mashkan la'avonos Yisrael. It's a collateral for the sins of the Jewish people. What does that mean? We got 2 Beis HaMikdash, which the Batei Mikdash. The Mishkan is the first house of Hashem. It was the original house in the desert. And then we got Eretz Yisrael, and we had 2 Batei Mikdash. And it says twice Mishkan, because when we did Averis, it was a mashkin, it was collateral, that God took away the Mishkan when we sinned. That's what the Mishkan is called. The gift of the place where Hashem dwells in our midst. And it's called collateral. that if we sin, we lose it. I'll tell you why. This is Stam. It's a wild name for the Beis Hamikdash. Mashkan. It's a Mishkan. If we sin, we lose. Such a negative take. I love positivity. Negativity, to me, we're a people. I don't think positivity is like a cute mid. I think it just means to be a yid. Our name is Yehudim. We're thankers. We're thankers. It's who we are. We're a joyous people who are thankers. We're Yehudim. We're maided as vasemis al davar gadol davar katan. We make meya brachas b'chol yom. Positivity is not a side mile. It's just like the essence of Yiddishkeit. People who notice the brachas of Hashem. So here to call the Beis Hamikdash a mashkin, it's collateral. If we sin, we lose it. That's like the introduction to the thing. I have advice for parents. I advise parents. I don't like when parents buy their youngster a cell phone, and then every time they make a mistake, they close their service. I don't like that. Your kid has a cell phone, he keeps it. You buy your kid a gift. You know what happens when every time they misbehave, you take away your gift? You never buy your kid gifts. It ends up just being a leash to control them. It's a leash. The kid will start chapping it. Every gift is only a hechatimsa, that now I have a thing that if you misbehave, I'll take it away. So it's not a gift, it's a leash. They'll start seeing it as such. You give a gift, the kid has the gift. That's it. You gave it, you gave it. Beseder, you want to punish, there are other punishments to give. The gift he has, the gift he has. We start taking it away. It stops being a gift, it's a leash. And then what's the Beis Hamikdash called? It's a mashkin, it's collateral. If we sin, we lose it. What's happening? It sounds funny. The Mishkan's called collateral, that if we sin, we lose it. We have something, a Mishkan, a place where we can connect to Hashem. Hashem's mitzamtzin, kaviyachal, and dwells in our midst. Hashras, Hashchina, and it's called collateral. So l'chayra, the pshat's like this. When somebody takes collateral, if I lend money to somebody and he gives me candlesticks as collateral, do I want those candlesticks? It's not the candlestick. There's a famous Reb Chaim, and he says that the chayv liktach in the mashkin. When I hold the candlesticks, it's just my way of holding the chayv. It's not the candlesticks I'm holding the chayv. He owes me money, and that's what I want. It's the money I want. The collateral is just a way of grabbing on to that which I really want. Is the pshat that the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash, is called collateral? What a funny name. If we sin, we lose it. That's what it's called. There's an Aymek that the Mikdash is what we want. Of course we want the Beis Hamikdash, but we want what it houses. What it houses is a close kesher between Hashem and us and Hashem. It's called collateral, that if we sin, we lose it. It means that the building only represents. It's something deeper, represents, and it houses in the Mishkan a connection to Hashem. Our own homes are a physical structure. And the physical structure is important and glorious. A Yiddish, a shtub, a Jewish home is wonderful. But what's the point of a Jewish home? What it houses: love, warmth, connection. The house is only a physical manifestation of what's contained inside of the house. The Beis Hamikdash is huge. We yearn. We have a tzipisa, tremendous yearning for the binyan Beis Hamikdash. And we want it and need it. Badly we want a Beis Hamikdash. And what the Beis Hamikdash is that which it can house, what's in the Beis Hamikdash, the relationship, the close connection, us and Hashem. It's called the mashkin. Collateral is the pshat. We do avaynus, we lose it, means that the purpose of the house is the relationship, us and Hashem, Hashem and us. When we do avaynus and the house stops representing and it no longer contains the relationship, we lose the house. It's called the mashkin because what do you call something so precious, collateral, that we could lose? It means the point is not the thing itself. It's what it brings to and what it contains. The relationship, the close connection, us and Hashem, Hashem and us. That's what the Mishkan, the Beis Hamikdash, is called collateral. And I want to say, this is something that I think all of us, if we focus on the Pnimius Hadavar, of all of our Ruchnius, of all of our journeys, if we focus on the Pnimius, even Galus is not just an Einesh, that Hashem is mad, so He sends us into Galus. Galus, the purpose of Galus, is that He wants us to focus on the thing. Of course, once we're focused on the thing itself, the kesher, the tremendous yearning that Yidden have for the Geula, Tzipisa Yeshua, we have an innate yearning for the Geula. Galus brings out the Tzipisa Yeshua, the sense that I want something so badly. It brings us and focuses us on the Pnimius Hadavar. And the purpose of Galus is that people go through struggles, all different struggles, and it brings out tremendous craving and yearning. There's a Chazal that describes Ikvus the Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, and it describes things that we would describe as negative. Last night, the conversation on Shabbos Kodesh, it was spoken about divorce, and Chazal speak about such things at Ikvus the Mashiach. Now, what is happening? Why is that the footsteps of Mashiach? That seems the opposite of Mashiach. Difficult things, chutzpah, spreads, that's footsteps of Mashiach. And I want to say that a lot of the difficulties we face, people face challenges with their children. People face challenges with shidduchim. People face challenges with shalom bayis. Do you know all these things? And we certainly want shalom bayis, shidduchim for our youth, gesund, health. We want all these things. Do you know all these things bring up a tzipisa, a craving for marriage, a craving for binyan bayis, a craving for all the important things in our life. The very difficulty brings up a craving for all that's right. The very difficult. I'm going to tell you one of the best vartim I ever heard in my life, and we're going to close with this on this topic. We're going to close with this. Here, a Yid steals, and he's sold as an Eved Ivri. Very difficult situation, whether he got it for stealing or he was so destitute, he was so poor, and he sold as an Eved Ivri. Sold as an Eved. He's a Yid in bad shape. Let's say he stole, he's mamish in trouble, he's a Ganav. Very difficult, bad place to be. And he's an Eved. Now an Adain has rules how we should treat his Eved. It's supposed to be Kitayv lo yimach, he's supposed to be wonderful to his Eved. The end of the period of Avdos, the Eved says, Ahavti es Adaini, I love my master. Ishti, my wife. Now, it's not a real wife. He has a real wife back at home. But his Adain is allowed to give him Shifcha Knanis. He has Banim that are not his real Banim. He has real Banim at home. The Banim are Isha v'Yeladeh Ti'aladeineh. But the guy at the end of his period of Avdos says, Ahavti es Adaini ves Ishti ves Banai. Do you chap that this guy in his Galus, he was an Evedach. Do you know he just came to the highest madregas? Every dream for my son Yisrael Meir, I want all my children to say, and all of us dream, the dream of our existence is to say, Ahavti es Adaini. I love my master, Avas Hashem. I love my Adain. Do you chap that this guy came to a madrega, Hafti es Adaini? He's talking about his Adain who acted like Hashem, who was good to him. And he says, Hafti es Adaini. Do you hear what the Yid's saying? It's not by accident. Hafti es Ishti means Avas Yisrael. He became a giver. Our main giver is to our spouse. Hafti ech kamoicha. The Arizal writes, the Iker Nidan of Hafti ech kamoicha is Reim Ahuvim is your spouse. The Iker after Kamaychas to a spouse. Ahavti es Ishti, all the loves, Avas Hashem, Avas Yisrael, As Banai, my children, is Limarat Torah v'shinantam levanecha. He wants to give, he wants to teach, he wants to raise. Everything we dream of a human being happened to this guy. He comes out from his sorrows, ahavti es adoni, es ishtiv es Banai, a dream fellow. Now the problem, says the Sfas Emes, he says la'etzei chavshi. The Galus did something to him, but he's afraid for Geula. The Ahavti es Adoni es Ishu es Banai was supposed to happen to him. And in all his difficulty, he learned to appreciate the Adon. Why was the Adon so nice? Because he was imitating the Adon HaKoil. Ishti, this is only an imitation of you. You have an Isha at home. Be good to your Isha, and his period of Abdus brought out. It healed the guy. Ahavti es Ishti. Go home to your wife. Bana, you now care for your children. Go home for your real banim. The guy says, La'etzei chavshi. He doesn't get it. He stops right there. It brought out wonderful things. My wife and I went on a Shabbaton, incredible place of people that are struggling with chinuch habanim. Incredible gathering. The yearnings, the tzipisa Yeshua I saw there was probably like nothing I've seen in my life. Every dream of it brought out to me. We all of us, we don't live I don't live minute by minute with my dreams, tzipisa Yeshua, that I want to serve Hashem, that I want to raise a family of Avdei Hashem, a fire, a passion. The difficulties, and we don't ask for difficulties, but the difficulties and the gullus bring out a tremendous, and it's ikvus of the Mashiach. Those are the footsteps of Mashiach. Gullus is not Hashem's casting us away. He's bringing out the yearnings and the etzem davar itself, that the very building was supposed to house. It's a mashkin. It's supposed to house those things. By losing the external brings out our tremendous craving for the thing itself. And the difficulties all of us encounter in our journeys, all different difficulties. The difficulty in finding shidduchim bring out a ratzain to build a bias for Hashem, a massive ratzain. Certainly we have to think about people who are struggling shidduchim and daven and feel the tsar, of course. But also listen to the tsar. We have a tsar because we want to build a bias. Everybody has to listen to that tsar. Everybody. All of us that have a bias, pay attention to the tsar. We want to build houses for Hashem. There's a tzipisa that's there. Go free with that. Move further with that. Take it. Don't say, la'etzei chinam, la'etzei chavshi, I'm stuck here. It brought out remarkable things, your difficulty. It brought out Ritzainus, a hafti es Adaini was created. Now run with that and find your true Adain. It brought out a hafti es Ishti, now find your wife. It brought out a hafti es Banai, so go home to your sons. The difficulties we encounter, the Galus itself, the Sfas Emes tells those psukim to Galus itself. He says it's a bigger avoid that brings out higher madregas, he says. Sfas Emes on the spot than we have during even the glorious days of Gula. He speaks that out. Ana hafti es adayni ves ishti ves banai. What it brings out of the person, the difficulties. They bring out tremendous yearnings, all our challenges. Now we don't ask for challenges. And by the way, we want to go back to Beis Hamikdash. We want to go chavshi. Because we want to take the Pnimius Hadavar that we certainly care about, and we want it housed in the Beis Hamikdash. We want the building back. And we want richness. We don't ask Hashem for continue pouring. We want richness. We want the next step. We don't want to stay the Eved. The danger of the Eved is he likes the Gullus, and it brought out some good stuff in him. He says, La'etzei chavshi, I'm staying right here. He loses his want for a life of richness. We could have it rich. The one we're looking for our shidduchim. So it brought out a tremendous yearning to build a bias among a collective yearning of Klal Yisrael. We want batim now. We want shidduchim. I'm not saying lo yitzei chavshi sen shidduchim Hashem, but we're going to live with what we learned. The want and the drive to build a bias, we're going to bring that with the chitzayim, with the mishpacha. We're going to bring what you brought out of us. We want gesund. We want shalom bayis. And we learned something from the challenges. We learned all about our drive for unity, our want to share. Ahavti es ishti ves banai. We've learned it, Hashem. Give us the chitzaynis. Give us spouses. Give us children. Give us wholesome homes. Give us the geula, and we'll live with what we learned in the geula. We'll be eitzei chavshi. We don't want to stay in this. We're not like the Eved, who the drives have been so learned that he says, I'll stay right here, eitzei chavshi. We're not like that. We want the chitzaynius, but we promise, and our commitment is to bring the things that have been nisaira through our difficulties, in our journeys, the tzipisa that our difficulties bring out of all of us. We all have our forms. I don't know a person who can't relate to that beginning of Parashas Mishpatim. It's the first lesson Moshe Rabbeinu taught us after Kabbalah Satira. I don't know one person who can't relate to that. The difficulties in the avdus that the person had, but that bring out the dream wants of a person. You can't have been more fixed up. A dream human being who wants an adain, who wants a wife and children. He's a dream. And the difficulties brought it out. But don't say la'etzei chavshi. We want the freedom, Hashem. The la'etzei chavshi is tragic. It's tragic. He gets so used to the difficulties that he says, I don't want change. No. We have, and we celebrate what we, and it brought out things. We want to now bring it into the stages of our life, into our families, so we're mispalel to Hashem. That he should, eitzei chavshi, we want to go free. We don't need our ears dreed, ki li b'nei Yisrael avadayim. We want to go out, Hashem should be mezakeh klal Yisrael. Our daughters with shidduchim, our sons with shidduchim, mishpachos with shalom bayis, families with gesund, and the lessons we learned, our deep drives and wants for you, Hashem, for our wives, for our children, to give, to share, to teach, to uplift. We're going to build from a place of Asherus. We will mekayim, akol mekayim, tar me'ayni soifa is l'skai me'oisher. Hashem should bless us and all of Klal Yisrael with all our needs. Agut devachim, thank you.